So, Bob, we're strolling towards the thatched cottage where you were arrested today, 50 years ago. How does that resonate in your mind now that it is 50 years later and you're able to walk in a free South Africa to this place?
Well, it's wonderful, and I'm very moved by it because I see a lot of children around here, school children, who are looking at the site, and I think it's really important that they should know their history.
Yes.
And this is a part of it. But I have to say that this is a wonderful museum, but it's not the place I came to.
I'd imagine.
Because it was laid out differently. It was a remote country place. The geese were cackling, and you wouldn't recognize it in many ways from what it is now. But at least it gives you an impression of the sort of milieu in which all this happened.
Well, speaking of the geese cackling, wasn't that the first indication that the police had arrived for the raid on that fateful day?
Well, it was a van, and there were vans coming and going, delivering goods to the gold rush and so on. And it was only when somebody said, "I've never seen that van here before," and it was a police van. It was a laundry van, but there were police inside. The police gorged out and their dog, and then of course we knew we'd had it.
And Rusty Bernstein had said to you, "Oh, I saw that at the police station." So
that's right.
The alarm bells were ringing already.
Yes, I had driven here avoiding the police station because I was worried about being tailed, and I'd come a different route. But Rusty had gone past the police station. He said, "My God, I saw that van outside the police station this afternoon." Yes, we were all worried, and it was, it's always you take the easy route out. We couldn't find another place to meet, and we said, well, we'll go there, but it'll just be the last time. But it was the last time for the wrong reasons.
When the police arrived, when you realized it was the police, what did you think?
Well, it was shock, and we tried to help 3 wanted men get out the back window. They didn't get very far. They were arrested. The next thing, police burst in and arrested us, and the lead policeman, who I'd been cross-examining in court a few weeks earlier, said, "Oh, it's Advocate Hepple, isn't it?" He was delighted. And another lead policeman, Warrant Officer Derka, whom I'd also been cross-examining on previous occasions, said, "Now we've got you all." And he said to Sisulu, "This'll set you back for 20 years. And Sisulu defiantly said, "But you'll never defeat us."
How often were you told, as you realized the enormity of the consequences, the Mayabuya plan was being discussed, you knew the weight of evidence that would be presented against you, and the possibility of a death sentence, how did that weigh on your mind?
Well, obviously it influences you, and just to give an example, one of the notorious policemen, Roy Swanepoel, who was my interrogator, would put a revolver on the table with a bullet and say, "Now we'll play Russian roulette. Do you want the bullet, or would you rather have the rope?" And so, and this would build up. And when you feel that revolver against your head, it concentrates the mind.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's all well documented in your book, A Young Man with a Red Tie, which I found an absolutely fascinating read. A final comment just on, we've got Nelson Mandela lying in hospital. You had wrote very movingly and very interestingly as well about your encounters with Nelson Mandela, but it goes back to the original trial where he was jailed for inciting a strike and leaving the country illegally. You were his legal advisor there. Yes. Tell me about your impressions of Nelson Mandela on that occasion.
Well, the first thing was his great ability to present his case fearlessly. He gave a political defense. He had no defense to the legal charges, so that's why he decided to conduct his own defense. But he needed me to help him with the legal aspects and various other ways. And one of the things that really struck me was that he didn't make any of this a personal issue. It was always a political question. Just a quick example. While I was consulting with him in his cell, there was a knock on the door, and the prosecutor, Mr. Bosch, said, "I want to speak to Mandela alone." I said, "Don't be crazy. This is a criminal trial. You don't speak to the defendant alone." And Mandela knew him and said, no, I know this man, let him in. And I stood outside for 10 minutes, and Bosch came out with tears streaming down his face. I went back and I said, what's happening? What's going on? And Mandela, I said, "You won't believe this. He asked for my forgiveness and said he hated what he was doing." So I said, "I hope you told him to go to hell." And he said, no. I said, "I quite understand. You're just doing your job, and I will never forget your kindness in coming to me." Now, I think that shows the kind of empathy and also not wishing to make it a personal issue, with the people who were attacking him. It was a political issue for him. He was always willing to negotiate, and the utter stupidity of the apartheid regime was not talking first to Lutuli and then to Mandela. And Mandela's demand of the All-African Convention was for a national convention to draw up a democratic constitution. And Dr. Verwoerd, the Prime Minister, didn't even reply. There's a wonderful part in the cross-examination by Mandela where he cross-examined the Prime Minister's secretary and said, isn't it usual for a Prime Minister to acknowledge a letter from a leader of his people? And the secretary said something along the lines, oh, well, it was a cheeky letter. And he didn't want to reply to it. And what did he do with it? He sent it to the Minister of Justice, in other words, the police, do something about this man. And that was, Mandela in a way was always willing to negotiate, but he then saw there was absolutely no alternative but to an armed struggle.
So Bob, thank you so much. I wonder if you just for our viewers on EWN, can you show us where you were sitting when they came in and raided? Yeah. Whereabouts were you?
And then they arrested everybody else. That's me.
He was in that corner, were you?
No, the door was open. I was standing here. I was the first in the doorway, and Mhlaba was standing, and Bernstein, and the other three had jumped out of the back window.
So that was the window Walter Sisulu jumped out?
Yeah, and Kathrada and Mbeki.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So Bob, thank you so much for chatting to us.
Eyewitness News, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, log on to ewn.co.za or ewn.mobi.